Her father didn't set protect her. He pushed her into the bullring. A daughter, betrayed by her own blood. What happened next will break your heart and change everything. Before we begin, smash that subscribe button, drop a comment below, and tell me, what would you do if your own blood betrayed you like this? Her name was Amara Velasco, the only daughter of Eduardo Velasco, one of Spain's most powerful and feared billionaires. Amara wasn't like the glamorous daughters you see on magazine covers. She was different. She was heavy-set, shy, and carried the scars of years of being mocked for her weight. In the golden halls of the Velasco mansion, where crystal chandeliers glowed and silk curtains swayed, Amara often felt like a shadow. Her father had built empires from steel and blood, but when it came to his daughter, all he saw was a disappointment. "Amara, look at you," Eduardo said coldly, his voice cutting like glass. "Do you think anyone in this family will respect me when you can even respect yourself? You eat too much. You hide too much. You staker of Velasco. Act like it. Papa." Her voice trembled as she held back tears. "I try. I really do. I read. I study. I want to help with your companies. But you only see what I step and not." Her words fell into silence. A silence heavy with pride, where a father's heart should have been. Despite the insults, Amara carried her pain quietly. She loved music. She dreamed of teaching. She wanted to be more than a billionaire's daughter. She wanted to be herself. But in a family where power meant everything, individuality was weakness. Eduardo often hosted grand parties at the estate. Politicians, celebrities, tycoons, all came to bask in his power. Amara would slip quietly to the corners, hiding behind marble pillars, her plate of food untouched, her heart heavy. That was where she met Lucia, a maid who became her only friend. "Señorita Amara," Lucia whispered with kindness. "Don't just let his words crush you. You have a light. I see it. He just refuses to." Amara gave a bitter laugh. "A light? If I had a light, Papa would have seen it long ago." "Sometimes," Lucia said softly, "the people closest to us are the blindest." It was Lucia who held Amara's secrets, her journals, her dreams. Without her, Amara would have been completely alone. But betrayal was already brewing in the shadows. Eduardo Velasco had enemies, many of them, rivals who wanted to see him broken. But the cruelest blow would not come from his enemies. It would come from himself. At a dinner one night, a business associate made a cruel joke. "Eduardo, your empire is grand." The man laughed, his glass raised high. "But your daughter, my God, if she stepped into a bull ring, the bull would run away out of fear." The table erupted in laughter. Glasses clinked. Amara sat frozen, humiliated, her cheeks burning. But Eduardo's jaw tightened. His pride was wounded deeper than any knife. He turned his gaze toward his daughter, and in his mind, the thought formed like poison. "If the world mocks me through her, then she must be remade, even if it breaks her." And that was the night Eduardo Velasco made a decision that would push his only daughter into the most brutal fight of her life. The night of betrayal came dressed as a celebration. Eduardo Velasco announced to the world that he would be sponsoring a grand bullfighting event in Madrid, that showcase of tradition, honor, and courage. The stadium would be filled with politicians, aristocrats, and businessmen. To the world, it looked like a festival of pride. But for Eduardo, it was something far darker. For days before the event, Amara noticed her father's strange glances, cold, calculated, like a man watching a pawn, not a daughter. On the day of the bullfight, Amara was told to dress in a simple beige gown, no jewels, no heels. "Why this?" she whispered to Lucia, her only friend. "Everyone else is dressed for a gala." Lucia's eyes shifted nervously. "I don't know, señorita. Your father only said you must wear it. Please, please be careful." The unease in her voice was like ice on Amara's skin. But she obeyed, because disobedience had never been an option. The arena roared with applause. Thousands of eyes sparkled with excitement, awaiting the spectacle. The gates opened. The matadors in their glittering outfits marched proudly into the sand, and behind them, walking hesitantly, was Amara. The crowd grew confused. Whispers filled the air. Who is she? A new act. Look at her. She doesn't belong here. One man scoffed. Velasco Sit's daughter, I heard. Another snickered. My God! This is humiliation. Amara felt the heat of 1,000 stares burning her skin. She turned to her father's private box, high above the arena. He stood there, calm, emotionless. And then, the moment. As the bull was released, Amara stood frozen at the edge of the ring, terrified, her breath caught in her throat. No, no, this isn't set real, she whispered to herself. Papa wouldn't set do this to me. But Eduardo Velasco himself descended the steps and walked to her side. His voice was low, his words knives. You want to eat, you want to live without shame, then prove you deserve life, or die with disgrace. And with one cruel motion, his hands shoved her forward. The sand scraped her knees as she fell. The bull's roar filled the air, its hooves pounding the ground like thunder. The crowd gasped, some in shock, others laughing in cruel delight. Amara scrambled to her feet, her chest heaving, tears blurring her vision. The bull charged. The earth trembled beneath her. Her heart screamed louder than her voice ever could. This is it, she thought in panic. Papa has killed me. I am nothing. I am prey. From the servant section, Lucia screamed, Amara, run. Please, run. But Amara wasn't built for running. Every step felt like her legs were chains. Her lungs burned. The bull's horns missed her by inches, grazing the fabric of her dress. The crowd gasped again, some cheering, some laughing. Look at her. Like a cow chased by a bull, one voice mocked. Another muttered darkly, no. This isn't set to show. This is murder. In that instant, Amara's tears dried. Fear twisted into rage. She looked up once more at her father's box. He didn't move, didn't flinch. His eyes were cold steel. Her breath shook, but her voice was steady in her mind. You did this. You want me dead. But Papa, I will not die for your pride. The bull's roar shook the arena. Dust rose into the air. Amara's heart thundered in her chest, every beat screaming survival. But then, something inside her broke. Not her body, not her spirit, but the chains of shame her father had wrapped around her since childhood. The bull lunged again, its horns like daggers of death. Amara tripped, rolling into the sand. Her hands bled as she pushed herself up. No more, she whispered fiercely to herself. No more hiding, no more crying. If this is my death, I will face it, standing. The crowd went silent as they saw something change in her eyes. She wasn't running anymore. She wasn't prey. She turned and faced the bull. From the servants' section, Lucia cried out, her voice breaking, Amara, please, please don't give up. Amara looked at her one true friend, and for the first time in her life, she smiled through the tears. This isn't about him anymore, she thought. This is about me. The bull charged again. This time, Amara didn't run blindly. She stepped aside, the horn missing her by a breath. The sand flew beneath her feet. The crowd gasped. Some rose to their feet. Dios mío, she dodged it. One man shouted in shock. Look at her, she's fighting. Another yelled. Each time the bull lunged, Amara found her rhythm. Step aside, turn, breathe, survive. It wasn't grace. It was raw, desperate instinct, but it worked. And with every move, something grew inside her. Confidence, power, a fire, long buried under shame. Memories flashed before her eyes. Her father's insults, the cruel laughter at parties, the loneliness of being unloved. But now, each memory wasn't a wound. It was fuel. You called me weak. You called me shame, she shouted within her own mind, fierce and unyielding. But look at me now, Papa. Look at me. At first, the crowd laughed at her. Now they watched in awe. She's not running anymore, someone murmured. Vamos, niña, fight, show him who you are. Another cheered. The same crowd that mocked her began to cheer. Not because she was perfect, not because she was trained, but because she refused to fall. In his private box, Eduardo Velasco's face darkened. His plan was unraveling. He wanted his daughter humiliated, crushed. But instead, she was rising. No, no, this is not how it ends, he muttered angrily under his breath. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the matadors stormed into the ring, distracting the bull and pulling Amara to safety. Her chest heaved. Her face was streaked with blood and tears, but she was alive. And when the crowd roared, it wasn't for the bull, it wasn't for the matadors, it was for her. Lucia rushed to her, holding her tightly. You survived. You did it, she sobbed. No, Lucia, Amara whispered, broken but proud. I lived. For the first time, I lived. That night changed everything. Amara walked into the arena as her father sub's pawn. She walked out as her own woman. But the story wasn't over. Eduardo Velasco, a man of pride and power, would not let her defiance go unpunished. And Amara was no longer afraid to fight. The bullfight was over, but the war had just begun. Amara returned home that night with blood on her hands, sand in her hair, and fire in her eyes. She was no longer the same frightened girl who had entered the ring. Something inside her had been reborn, and Eduardo Velasco, her own father, the man who had pushed her into death's jaws, now had an enemy in his own house. The grand dining hall of the Velasco mansion was silent that evening. Silver plates gleamed, crystal glasses sparkled, but no one touched the food. Amara sat at the far end of the table, staring at her father. You embarrassed me today, Eduardo finally said, his voice sharp as a blade. You turned my lesson into a spectacle. No, Papa, she answered calmly, her eyes never leaving his. You embarrassed yourself. You tried to kill me, and the world saw that I lived. The servants froze. No one had ever dared speak to Eduardo Velasco this way, not even his business rivals. By morning, newspapers across Spain screamed with headlines. Velasco's daughter survives the bullring, heroine, or victim. The truth behind Amara's ordeal. Television anchors debated. Politicians whispered behind closed doors. His empire, built on fear, began to shake. I saw it with my own eyes. One spectator told the cameras. That girl, she faced death with no training, no weapon, and she survived. She's steps braver than her father ever was. Eduardo's pride shattered. His enemies smelled blood. His allies stepped back. And through it all, Amara's name spread like wildfire, not as the fat daughter of a billionaire, but as the girl who defied death. One night, Eduardo stormed into her room, his fury spilling over. He slammed the door so hard the walls shook. You think you Steve won, he hissed. You think the world loves you now. You are still nothing without my name. She stood tall, fearless. No, Papa. You are nothing without your power. And power fades. But courage lives forever. For the first time in his life, Eduardo saw it, the fire in his daughter's eyes, a fire he could not extinguish. Lucia, ever loyal, uncovered the final truth. Hidden in the mansion's study, she found documents that revealed everything. Eduardo had not only staged the bullring stunt as punishment, he had wagered millions with his rivals that his daughter would not last 5 minutes in the arena. Amara, Lucia's hands shook as she handed over the papers. He didn't just betray you as a father. He sold your life for money. Amara's heart clenched, but no tears came. She had no more tears left for him. When Eduardo called a press conference to spin the story, to paint himself as a proud father who had tested his daughter's strength, Amara walked forward, uninvited, and took the microphone. You call it a test, she said, her voice trembling at first, then strong. I call it betrayal. My father did not want me to live. He wanted me erased, but I lived, and I will keep living, not as his shadow, but as my own light. The crowd erupted, cameras flashed, and the empire Eduardo had built crumbled under the weight of his daughter's truth. Within weeks, his companies faced investigations, partners abandoned him, his fortune dwindled, and Amara, she became a symbol. Schools invited her to speak, young girls wrote her letters, thanking her for showing them that courage mattered more than perfection. Lucia remained by her side, not as a servant, but as a sister. One evening, Eduardo Velasco, once the most feared man in Spain, sat alone in his mansion, his empire in ruins. Amara visited him, not with anger, but with calm strength. "You wanted me weak," she said softly, standing over him. "You wanted me gone. But Papa, I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace." He looked at her, broken, silent. "You pushed me into death," she whispered, her voice steady. "But it only pushed me into life. And that is something you can never take away." She left him there, not in anger but in triumph. Amara Velasco had been betrayed by blood, mocked by strangers and hunted by death. But in the end, she rose, not as her father's shame, but as her own strength.